Jana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai go Haribo, 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 Nitai go Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parabhakachaya Ashataya Satashi Shima, His Divine Loving Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki, Gaur Premananda Haribo. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading this morning from Srimad Bhagavatam. And Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudurayet Nasta Pareshu Dabhavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Dhamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, chapter 29. Texts are selection of verses will be text 15 through text 20, and our focus verse will be text number 18. Explanations of devotional service. So, who would like to start the ball rolling?
A devotee must execute his prescribed duties, which are glorious without material profit, without excessive violence. One should regularly perform one's devotional activities.
The devotee should regularly see my statues in the temple, touch my lotus feet, and offer worshipable paraphernalia and prayer. He should see in the spirit of renunciation from the mode of goodness and see every living entity as spiritual.
The pure devotee should execute devotional service by giving the greatest respect to the spiritual master and the acharyas. He should be compassionate to the poor and make friendship with persons who are his equals, but all his activities should be executed under regulation and with control of the senses.
The devotee should always try to hear about spiritual matters and should always utilize his time in chanting the holy name of the Lord. His behavior should always be straightforward and simple, and although he is not envious but friendly to everyone, he should avoid the company of persons who are not spiritually advanced.
When one is fully qualified with all these transcendental attributes and his consciousness is thus completely purified, he is immediately attracted simply by hearing my names and hearing of my transcendental qualities.
As the chariot of air carries an aroma from its source and immediately catches the sense of smell, similarly, one who constantly engages in devotional service and Krishna consciousness can catch the Supreme Soul who is equally present everywhere.
Okay. Now text 18. Akyatmika Nushravanam Adyatmika Nushravanam Adyatmika Nushravanam Nama Sankirtanach Cha Me Nama Sankirtanach Cha Me Arjavanarya Sangena Arjavanarya Sangena Nirdaham Kriyaya Nirdaham Kriyaya Tata Adyatmika Nushavanavanam Adyatmika Nushavanam Nama Sankirtanach Chame Nama Sankirtanachame. Archavanarya Sangena. Arjavanarya Sangena. Nirahang Kriyaya Tata. Nirahang Kriyaya Tata. Adhyatmikanushavanan. Nama Sankirtanachame. Arjavanarya Sangena. 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 Nirahang Kriyaya Tata. Anyone else? Adhyatmikanushavanan. Nama Sankirtanachame. Arjavanarya Sangena. Nirahang Kriyaya Tata. Adhyatmika. Spiritual matters. Anushavanat. From hearing. Nama Sankirtanat. From chanting the holy name. Cha and me, my. Arjavena. With straightforward behavior. Ayasangena. With association of saintly persons. Nirahang Kriyaya. Without false ego. Tata. Thus. Translation. A devotee should always try to hear about spiritual matters and should always utilize his time in chanting the holy name of the Lord. His behavior should always be straightforward and simple, and although he is not envious but friendly to everyone, he should avoid the company of persons who are not spiritually advanced. Hare Krishna. Again, repeat. A devotee who should always try to hear about spiritual matters and should always utilize his time in chanting the holy name of the Lord. His behavior should always be straightforward and simple. And although he is not envious, but friendly to everyone, he should avoid the company of persons who are not spiritually advanced. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. In order to advance in spiritual understanding, one has to hear from authentic sources about spiritual knowledge. One can understand the reality of spiritual life by following strict regulative principles and by controlling the senses. To have control, it is necessary that one be nonviolent and truthful, refrain from stealing, abstain from sex life, and possess only that which is absolutely necessary for keeping the body and soul together. One should not eat more than necessary. He should not collect more paraphernalia than necessary. He should not talk unnecessarily with common men, and he should not follow the rules and regulations without purpose. He should follow the rules and regulations so that he may actually make advancement. There are 18 qualifications mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, among which is simplicity. One should be without pride. One should not demand unnecessary respect from others. And one should be non-violent. Amanitvam, adambidvam, ahimsa. One should be very tolerant and simple. One should accept the spiritual master, and one should control the senses. These are mentioned here and in Bhagavad Gita as well. One should hear from authentic sources how to advance in spiritual life. Such instructions should be taken from the Acharya and should be assimilated. It is especially mentioned here, Nama Sankirtanach Cha. One should chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, either individually or with others. Lord Chaitanya has given special stress to chanting of these holy names of the Lord as the basic principle of spiritual advancement. Another word used here is arjavena, meaning without diplomacy. A devotee should not make plans out of self-interest. Of course, preachers sometimes have to make some plan to execute the mission of the Lord under proper guidance. But regarding personal self-interest, a devotee should always be without diplomacy, and he should avoid the company of persons who are not advancing in spiritual life. Another word is Arya. Aryans are persons who are advancing in knowledge of Krishna consciousness, as well as in material prosperity. The difference between the Aryans and non-Aryans, the Sura and Asura, is in their standards of spiritual advancement. Association with persons who are not spiritually advanced is forbidden. Lord Chaitanya advised asatsanga tyaga. One should avoid persons who are attached to the temporary. A sat is one who is too materially attached, who is not a devotee of the Lord. A sat is one who is too materially attached, who is not a devotee of the Lord, and who is too attached to women or enjoyable material things. Such a person, according to Vaishnava philosophy, is a persona non grata. A devotee should not be proud of his acquisitions. The symptoms of a devotee are meekness and humility. Although spiritually very advanced, he will always remain meek and humble, as Kaviraj Goswami and all the other Vaishnavas have taught us by personal example. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us that one should be humbler than the grass on the street and more tolerant than the tree. One should not be proud or falsely puffed up. In this way, one will advance in spiritual life. Om Ganadamadandasya Ganadana Shalakaya Chakshumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Bhagadamayam Nadati Svabadantikam Bandehong Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagurajatam Sahagana Rakanatam Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Pradajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamashta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So I have to confess, this morning I wasn't very excited about coming to the temple. I actually woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Have you ever woken up on the wrong side of the bed before? Yeah, it is funny. Like you kind of come into an environment, and you just kind of feel the modes, or something. It's like, so it's amazing how, this process of Krishna consciousness is unmotivated and uninterrupted. And it reminds me of a saying by Martha Washington. She was the wife of George Washington. And you can imagine, being during the Revolutionary War, which lasted for 8 years, she was constantly going to different battlefields, a very aristocratic lady. And one time someone asked her, how is it that you're able to tolerate going to those battlefields? She went for about 4 years, off and on, in the wintertime, in the most difficult situations. She said, she was actually very religious. She was a Vaishnavi. She would pray every day for an hour. You couldn't even talk to her during her prayer hour. If you did, she got very, it wasn't acceptable. She said, I am determined to be cheerful in all situations. As I have learned that the greater part of our suffering is not due to circumstances, but to disposition. So she had that realization, which is coming from, is expressed very eloquently, most eloquently by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Brahmabhuta prasanatma nashotati kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktam labate param. That one who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman. He does not lament nor desire to have anything. In that state, he sees everyone equally. He's equally disposed to everyone. In that state, he achieves pure devotional service unto me. So, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, I was just reflecting on this before coming here this morning. How, I just keep coming back to this prayer that you all have heard before, and I just can't help but share it with you again. It's such a beautiful prayer, because it is a prayer that almost, it's like, not almost, it lays the full foundation of our life, or how we should view this world, It's like he just encapsulates the mood of a pure devotee, and it's just kind of interesting. He signs this poem that he wrote on the Jaladuta, your most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, right? And here we are. We have Srila Prabhupada, we worship him every day, and yet he's thinking himself to be an unfortunate, insignificant beggar. So, my dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul. I do not know why you've brought me here, but now you can do whatever you like with me. I guess you must have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of passion and ignorance, absorbed in material life. They have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. And I do not know how they will be able to understand it. But I do know that your causeless mercy can make everything possible, because you are the most expert mystic. O spiritual master of the worlds, I can only repeat your message. And if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. And I am sure when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they'll certainly feel gladdened and become liberated from all miseries of life. Oh Lord, I'm just like a puppet in your hands. Make me dance. Make me dance as you like. And as who was it? Someone was giving class earlier this week. They were quoting, maybe it was Narottam, maybe? Seeing how Srila Prabhupada said, I have no knowledge, nor do I have any devotion. I do have firm faith in the holy name of Krishna. So today's topic was that we were discussing, the broad topic is the 5 limbs of devotional service. And out of these, the most important is hearing and chanting Nama Sankirtana. So I'd like to share with you a beautiful verse I think we can all learn together, because it's one of those verses, sometimes you find verses in the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, they all rhyme together. So it makes it very musical. So this is from the 22nd chapter of the Majjhima Lila, text number 128, when Lord Chaitanya is explaining to Sanatana Goswami. Actually, there are 64 limbs of devotional service, right? Just like Krishna has 64 qualities. This number 64 comes up quite often. Can anyone think of any other 64s? What's that? 64 rounds, right? Any more 64s you can think of? The gopis, right? There are 64 arts, right? Yes, 64 qualities of Krishna, yes. So but out of those 64, he synthesized, or he summarized them all. If we develop these, if we engage in these 5 activities, and everything else will manifest. Everything else is, it's like these are the 5, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu referred to as the 5 limbs of devotional service. And I thought that was so beautiful. 5 limbs. When you think of limbs, right, what do you think of? You think of arms, right? So these 5 limbs is like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was embracing us with these activities. So it starts off, Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtana. Can you see that? Bhagavata Shravana Maturavasa Shrimurtira Shradaya Sevana. Isn't that musical? Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtana Bhagavata Shravana Maturavasa Shrimurtira Shradaya Sevana. So the first one is, who remembers the first one? Sadhu Sangha. Which is what we're doing right now. We come together, we associate with each other, right? Then the next one is Nam Sankirtana. Chanting the holy names, right? What's the third one? Remember? Right, Bhagavatam Shravana, right? Who's doing it right now, right? Bhagavata Shravana. Then there's Mathura right? We're right here, we're right in the Holy Dham. Right? And then the last but not least, Shrimurtiya. We're worshiping the deity with Shraddhaya and Sevana, right? So these are the 5 ways that Lord Chaitanya embraces the conditioned soul and enlivens him. They're like lamps in the heart, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Tesham eva nukam partam maham jnana jangdama nashim yatma bhavavsto jnana dipena basvata. Out of compassion for them, I dwelling within their hearts, destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So I was just talking in the very beginning how, due to the darkness born of ignorance, I was feeling, oh my God, I have to get up, I have to shower, for some reason the modes of nature just slap me in the face, right? But this is due to bodily identification, right? And this is the, when we talk about Nam Sankirtana, right? Nam Sankirtana is it's actually the last word in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The last verse is Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukha Samanas Tam Namami Harim Padam. This last chapter is entitled The Glories of the Bhagavatam. Right? And in this last verse, Sukadeva Goswami says, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, Hari, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances unto whom relieves one of all material suffering. So, yesterday, I think it was a couple of days ago, Kaylee, you were asking, what was the question you asked about how we talk about the holy name, how it can relieve us, and at the same time I'd like to hear how you phrased the question.
Hare Krishna. I'm trying to remember exactly, but it was saying that so at one of the sides was that we can be chanting the holy name for however many years and still not reach that love of God. But at the same time, Prabhupada says that we can just chant Hare Krishna and go back to Godhead. So it feels that one can be chanting but still not experience that, but then still go back to Godhead. I don't understand.
Yeah. So when you asked that question, I was reflecting on the ISKCON verses, where how Lord Chaitanya, he says, "Oh my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to the living beings." Right? In fact, those first 2 verses of Shikshastika prayers, it gives us all the amazing benedictions that we can get from the holy name, and I'll just share those with you real quickly. The first benediction is that it takes away all the dust accumulated in the heart. Right? There's so much dust. Like right now, I'm feeling in my mind so much dust. Right? But the holy name, it washes away that dust. And what is that dust? Right? The dust is the identification with this body, this desire to enjoy this material world, right? These thinking I'm the doer, right? These are all different particles of dust on our consciousness. And this chanting of the holy name simply wipes away all that dust, right? And extinguishes, second benediction is it extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death, right? So as you think about like our first prayer in the morning is samsara davana nalalita loka, that the material was a blazing fire. And we're continually conditioned to take birth and birth again and again and again and again. But this is the fire extinguisher, right? Like there's a fire in the house. You have to call in the fire brigade, right, to extinguish the fire. So the holy name is a fire extinguisher. There's this blazing fire that's going on in our hearts right now. And by simply chanting the holy name, we're extinguishing that fire. We no longer have to take birth again in this material world. Right? That's the second benediction. The third benediction is that it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. So even though we're in this blazing fire of conditional life, the rays of the benediction moon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu is so soothing and cooling. And the fact is, we see that when we come to Krishna consciousness, like it explains in the 11th canto, there's 4 states of consciousness, right? There's waking state of consciousness. This is when Hamsa, the swan incarnation, comes before Lord Brahma. He explains there's 4 types of consciousness. There's waking consciousness. There's dreaming consciousness. There's deep sleep consciousness, when we're in deep sleep, when we're totally merged into ignorance, right? And then what's the 4th? There's Krishna consciousness. It's a totally different state. Just like, we think in terms of, dimensions. There's width, there's length, there's depth, and there's time. So this Krishna consciousness is a totally different state of consciousness. And it's a state of consciousness where there's complete satisfaction in the present moment. We're not hankering, as we started out with the verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na Shochati na Kamshati. We're not hankering for a future moment. We're not hankering for a future situation. Because we're totally connected with Krishna at that moment. So for devotee, there's no sense of duality. Okay, like he explains in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, one who's beyond duality and doubt, right? Whose mind is always active within, right? Who's always working for the welfare of all living beings, and who's freed from all sinful reactions. He achieves my abode. So this doubt that I'm thinking that this present moment, I'm not satisfied with this present moment. I have to experience a future moment. And when that future moment comes, everything will be sunshine and flowers. Right? That's how we think in the dreaming state. We're not really thinking so much in the deep sleep state, but in the dreaming state and the wakeful state, we're hankering for some future moment. But the Krishna conscious devotee who's realized Krishna, he's with Krishna at every moment. Krishna's in his heart. Krishna's dancing on his tongue. Like Srila Prabhupada explains in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the purport to that first verse, Krishna says, meditate upon me, right? Always think of me, right? So he explains there that when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Nama, Nama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Nama, Nama, Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Do you know what just happened? According to this purport in the Bhagavad Gita, you know what happened just now? Yes, Krishna. Not only Krishna, who else? He says, yes, Krishna and his internal potency. So who's Krishna's internal potency? Rani. Right. They were just dancing on our tongues. Now, earlier in this section, where there was a verse about deity worship, right? So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the difference between a Kanishta Adhikari and an Uttama Adhikari is when the Kanishthadikari is worshiping the deity, he's thinking that the deity and Krishna are not the same. But whereas an Uttama Adhikari realizes that Krishna and the deity are the same. So when the devotees come, when I see all of you coming in and taking Charnamrita and saying prayers, I can just watching you, I just feel this transmission's going on, right? There's a reciprocation that's going on between you and Radha Kalachandji. So that's a symptom of an advanced devotee, that they see that this is Krishna himself. Similarly, a devotee sees that Krishna and his name are non-different. That is the Kanishta between the Kanishthadikari and Uttamadikari. Krishna's name is non-different. And it's such a beautiful, in other words, when a devotee realizes this, I'm praying for your mercy that someday I will realize this. But when a devotee realizes this, it's like at every moment, it's a moment of ecstasy, of coming closer to Krishna. Every time a devotee chants, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He's taking one step closer, he or she is taking one step closer to Krishna. And what's so amazing is that when Krishna, you see, Srila Prabhupada explains in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the section when Arjuna goes to see Mahavishnu, he explains that Krishna, he is, oh my God, Hare Krishna. It's 8:22. We just, time flies. Okay, I'll just make this last point, and then I'm sorry, and then I want to hear. Not only do I love hearing your thoughts and realizations, I love hearing the timbre of your voices. Everyone has a unique quality to their voice, and it's so beautiful, and it must be so pleasing to Radha Kalachandji to hear the different timbres and expressions of love coming from their devotees. So the last point I want to make, so Srila Prabhupada says that, so Krishna is ever increasing, right? So when Krishna increases, he has to catch up, to become conscious of that. But then as soon as he becomes fully conscious of how he's increased, he increases again, right? And this is going on eternally. So in the same way, when we chant Hare Krishna, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. We chant it again, but when we chant Krishna's name again, it's already increased. Krishna's ever increasing. In this way, Krishna's ever fresh. In the same way, everything we do in devotional service is ever fresh. This Bhagavatam is ever fresh. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. We've barely scratched the surface, but what can we do?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for this class. I really appreciate your depth of reflection on everything that we talk about in class and in the books. I do have a little bit of question. I can't remember in which verse it was talking about that one should not one is not envious but friendly to all, but at the same time should not advance with those who are not spiritually advanced.
Right.
And we can see some people are advanced in some spiritual things but may lack in other things. So someone might be really good, or like within the devotee community, someone might be really amazing at addressing the deities but not so good at, connecting with others. And then someone might be really good at kirtan but not so good at, waking up or something. So how can we kind of see and this is within the community, but even others, we had these girls come to the house yesterday and they seem so realized, they actually understand a lot of this. They had a lot of realizations on our philosophy, but how do we know who, because everyone feels like a mix. No one's spiritually advanced or not spiritually advanced. It feels how do we know who we should spend most of our time with?
Well, I know myself, I'm at such a low level of devotional service that anyone who's chanting Hare Krishna and following the Four Vagata principles, it's a privilege, it's an honor for me to be in their presence. Just the fact that they're here, there's 9 billion people on this planet right now, and how many are in Bhagavatam class right now, in North America, or around the world, different time zones, but there's so few. Just the fact that someone comes to the temple, Now, there's different degrees of association. There's intimate association where you reveal your heart to someone confidentially. That's a very intimate, level of association. So depending upon, because, if you're going to reveal your heart to someone, you have to trust them, And in the connection of like, Srila Prabhupada says a devotee he's respectful to all living beings, right? But that doesn't mean that we play with the tigers, right? I mean, we respect the tigers, but the tigers, let them stay with. I offer my respect to the tigers by leaving them alone, by letting them stay in their jungle, in their environment. I'm not going to play with the tiger, So similarly, we don't associate intimately with people. We respect them, and we pray for them. We pray that they can come, closer to Krishna. But that doesn't mean we intimately associate with them. So I don't feel I fully answered your question because
You did. I was, mostly just trying to see like who should spend more of our time with. Obviously, anyone chanting Hare Krishna is like spiritually advanced. But I guess I was just curious, like, to help us progress, because sometimes, I don't know. Yeah, I guess.
No, I feel your pain. Okay, in the sense that I understand that. How do you be discriminatory and faithful to that principle, at the same time not become militant and judgmental? So I think Premananda has a realization that I'm anxious to hear.
Well, I've just heard. I mean, you were touching on it yourself. By saying like we have different levels of relationships with people. And so, in order to be satisfied as a devotee, we need people that are our peers, that we can see, okay, we're doing similar things, we're on a similar level, people that we see are similar to us, some in more ways and some in less, but around the same. But we also need juniors. So when we see that people maybe aren't on even the level that we're on, like externally, then we can make a point to help them. Come to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Hey, come to a program or preaching, giving out books and stuff. So we're associating with people that are not as spiritually advanced, but we're doing it in a way that's like keeping Krishna in the center. So we need the juniors, and then we also need seniors who we can trust to guide us as well. I have another thought also that's not relevant.
On that quick, I agree. I thank you for making that point. I think I was also trying to say, or I feel that also some people, like I might be junior to someone in like, okay, what I cannot do kirtan. So someone is seen like more advanced than me in kirtan or these things. But then something else, that same person, I guess I'm trying to say is that we all have different strengths and weaknesses even within. So it's like one person might be spiritually advanced in something else, but then or in ourselves, we might have a strength, but then we might have a weakness as well. And so it feels like, I don't know how to. Yeah.
I think Nanda Braj has some light to shed on your
There's
question.
a real natural inclination for people to want to accept spiritual master. And when we find spiritual master and we grow in our relationship with them, I should say, there's a certain amount of satisfaction that comes over us and clarity in our service. And then when we have that satisfaction of the association of the spiritual master and the clarity on the service, then our perception of the people that were around us starts to say, how is this person helping my service? Not in a disrespectful way, but we learn to start to separate ourselves from, and respecting always, like you said, but this person's helped me clarify my service to my spiritual master. And so therefore it's something I want. I want that association more. This person, I appreciate them and stuff, but they're not necessarily sparking my service that I have. And so this is one thing that I think can be helpful, is this desire for spiritual master, a spiritual master and clarity in our service of Krishna and them. Your thoughts, Prabhu?
Well, it's 8:31. I don't want to go for time. Do we have just 2 minutes? Yeah. Okay. I'll just respond. I like what you said about where we're not disrespectful, and just to when we get back to Prabhupada's prayer, he says, "Only by your mercy can my words become pure." So what's really for myself is that it's the mood, that mood. Like if you're thinking someone's junior to me, I'm better than them, that's a materialistic. Actually, Srila Prabhupada says in the 10th chapter of the Adi Leela, I think it's text number 4 in the purport, says there is no distinction between devotees. There's no higher and lower devotees. He said that's material distinction. He said, but at the same time, for the sake of creating a worldwide preaching movement, we respect the elders. We honor the senior devotees, the senior Vaishnavas. So it's like we're coming from a linear tradition, Western thinking of it's either or, But in spiritual life, it's learning to see simultaneous oneness and difference. That we make distinctions, but at the same time, we understand there are no distinctions. Yes, and we can help each other, like in a relationship, a husband and wife. The husband will compliment, the wife will compliment the shortcomings of the husband. So in the same way with community, we help each other, in that way. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Sadhu Sangha ki. Anjay. So Kripa Sindhu Bevacha. Pinang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Oh, Hare Krishna.
thinking, oh, I mean, it looks like we're going to leave, I want to tell you. I think they wanted to be left open today. Looks like they wanted it to be left open. I always do this, I came to close the bag. Yeah, it's good.